So yesterday we got our everything set up so that we could test our taxi tier upgraded logic. So when our taxi collides with the jockey, it'll upgrade into a hunter, which right now is just doing the same logic as the bounder is, just with the white sprite. So we need to separate that logic out, so that if it's a bounder, this current logic applies, but if it is a hunter, like it is in this case, we need to speed up its dx and its dy probably. Or flap amount, rather. How often we flap. Probably keep the same dy on the per flap basis, just flap more. So if we go to our vulture here, we do have, we've got vulture sprite. Okay. Now, we set our atlas field equal to this proper atlas, depending on our self tier, but we also need to apply logic if it's a specific tier as well. Different logic. So I guess we want to find what logic can be outside of the tier, but I'm not really thinking that's... I don't know. Hold on. So this is just like updating our last positions. And then sets growing viewport upon spawning. Now, that isn't really, since that's spawning, this is all, hold on, shoot. Oh. If self-spawning, do that, else if not spawning, yep. So this is where we're checking all that collision stuff, which shouldn't matter which tier we're in, we're just going to be checking collision anyway. What matters is our change in X position and our change in Y position. Our ground platform assignment and our ground field has nothing to do with it. But here, if we top collide, yeah, we don't want that to change either, depending on the tier. Neither with this, neither with left or right collide. Okay. Yeah, we want to apply gravity regardless of what tier we're in. We want to update our Y position regardless of what tier we're in. We want to update our X position regardless what tier we're in, but the amount, the dx, is actually what we want to put in the tier system. So where are we giving us? Okay. It looks like we're not even modifying our dx. It's like we just assign a dx and then it's different. It looks like we never set a dx here. We can set the speeds. See, this is, I guess, the only time we ever set the speed. It's 0.7. Well, no, this is messed up. No, that's right, because we pass in a positive number, either positive or negative. So we actually don't want to do this exactly yet. What we really want to do is put dx, the argument, into our dx field for our vulture instantiation, and then we want to modify our dx based on the tier. So If it's tier 1, then our self dx gets... See, this isn't right. This isn't right. We would just want to initialize it. Upon its initialization, we would want to set the tier, well, because we're changing. Shoot, how do you do this? I guess we want to... Yeah, we want to have one variable if we're tier 1. But if we're tier 2, that variable needs to get overwritten to a higher variable. All our dx logic kind of just is defined in terms of itself kind of flipping our direction if we bump into stuff. So the speed doesn't really change. So if in our update loop, if we're on tier 2, we just constantly assign our dx to be... See, and then there's a problem with which direction it's going. So it's like... Yeah, we just want to do it once. We just want to say, hey, our dx, if we're on tier 2, is this, but only initialize it at that. I guess whenever we switch to tier, we can also just modify our dx manually there. And then we don't have to call it every function in this update. So when do we instantiate that particular vulture from a jockey? It's in the egg to jockey collision, or no, egg to taxi to jockey collision. Yes, this is where we instantiate the vulture. So here, the positive one would give us a positive dx, but then we're going to modify that dx. It's still going to be positive. It's just going to be faster. So like, I don't know if 50% faster is too much, but we can do that. So times 0.5. You know, we're saying our dx gets updated, then this is only upon an actual collision. Should only happen once. That's the bug we fixed yesterday. But we want to update that vulture's dx to be its current either left or right, but a bigger number. Oh, yeah, bigger number, not a smaller number. 1.5. And then upgrade our tier. So yeah, we instead of modifying our dx after we upgrade our tier, we're doing it while we upgrade our tier, basically in this same group of whatever. Let's see if our white hunter is faster now on dx. It is. That looks pretty good, actually. That looks pretty fast and scary. Maybe we... So look, like, what happens if we double the speed? Is that Shadow Lord status? That's pretty fast. I feel like Shadow Lord status probably is about that fast. That's pretty awesome. So maybe we do 1.4 and 2. 1.4 is the hunter, 2 is the Shadow Lord. You know what, let's go 1.5 like we had it, because I want a little extra challenge, I guess. It's funner when it's more noticeable, you know. I guess if this is the case, when the vulture will have a dx. No, never mind, no. This won't. We have to have a way to, if a taxi at tier 2 collides. So like if it collides, if it's tier 1, If taxi, no, if, God, how do we do it? We would need to do the Shadow Lord DX logic if the taxi that collides is a hunter instead of a bounder. So in our taxi class, we do have a tier system, right? And it's just 2-tier system. Tier gets 1, a variable or a integer. And then if it's tier 1, we're getting that. Otherwise, yeah, so there is a different, okay, if it's tier 2. So we need to set tier 2. We need to set, yeah, it should be the same taxi object, just a different color eyes. But, and this is the stuff that's hard to test until we take off our tester and put on our normal vultures again, but we need to modify our taxi tier to be equal to 2 if the taxi that collides with the jockey is a tier 1 or a shoot. Yeah, it's like we need another variable almost, or so if the tier is 1, then I guess we just have to modify when we instantiate. Gosh, yeah, this is tricky. But when we instantiate our taxi via a egg hatch, we need to check if that egg, how do we do that? We have to check if that egg has been hatched already, because the Shadow Lord has to come from 2 hatched eggs. So we have to keep track of that globally throughout each index of vultures. Yet we're overriding each instantiation of every vulture each time. So what way can we even track that at this moment? It needs to be something that persists through through the deletion of our global object tables. So maybe we have another table. Shoot, that's getting crazy. Yeah, what's the answer for that? Because we have to have a way to track if an egg is hatched twice or not, to assign our Shadow Lore logic over our Hunter logic. I think we have another global table of values that gets, initialized with every other object, yet it's outside of our global tables. So what we're really trying to do is just count how many times a certain index has hatched in a given wave. And they all start out as 0, and then when they hatch, on our instantiation of a taxi, we increment that global table. So we increment that corresponding index in that global table to be +1, meaning hatched 1. Now, in that vulture instantiation, we say, hey, if we're hatched 1, apply Hunter DX. If we're hatched 2 in that global table at this given index, we modify our DX by the ×2 instead of the 0.15. That's kind of the only thing I'm thinking, because right now we're overwriting all our old instantiations in the table. So we can't really store any data in those objects, any data like how many times we've hatched. So we need another table. We need another table I think we can do that kind of as simply as in our play state, or either in our play state or our main. We can say in our init, we can say that we have a table in our play state called hatch times, or it's like the amount of times we've hatched, but it's really signifying, yeah. I guess it would be called eggs hatched or something, like times egg hatched, I guess. Times egg hatched. That gets a table, and it needs the same amount of integers as our vulture table instantiation does, like this we do here. Right now it's hard-coded at 3. So right now we'll put 3, and they all start off 0. Just want to make sure that didn't crash anything. So we have a table now. It's not quite global. It's in our play state though, so it's outside of our object classes. So we would need to modify this table, the appropriate index. Every time an egg hatches, we need to increment this number at this index. And then we need to only apply certain logic based on our times egg hatched. But it's also, yeah, it would also be setting the atlas too. No, we would just modify the tier. The tier modifies the atlas in the update of the class. Jesus. Okay. So that's my current thinking. I think before I forget, like before I just add this table and then don't use it, I should probably go use it real quick. And we should use it anytime an egg hatches into a jockey. So we can look at every jockey instantiation. I'm just going to copy this times egg hatched. We can control find a jockey class instantiation and see that they're not hatched there. That's when we're just doing the populations. There we go. So right here, jockey and taxi spawn, yes. So we also need to put our eggs, our egg times egg hatched at the index. So we say, we pass an I there, so it's at the same index, and we need to overwrite that index with itself, which is currently 0, but then +1. So just increment that table if a jockey is spawned in that egg hatched. So if we collide with vulture 1 will die, turn into an egg at eggs 1. If egg at eggs 1 triggers hatched, we will instantiate a jockey at jockeys 1. That takes in the egg's last position. Then we will increment our global table at our index of times egg hatched. We'll increment that, so we're counting how many times it's hatched. Therefore, by the time that egg turns into a hunter, a white hunter, if that vulture dies into an egg and that egg gets hatched and that jockey gets instantiated, we will increment our times egg hatched to 2, at which point if our times egg hatched are 2, then we need to give our corresponding vulture instantiation the different appropriate logic, which is either modifying its dx by 0.15 or 2. Currently, that's what we just kind of tested. So where did we do the DX here. Not here, not here. It's getting closer. Shoot, I forgot. Yeah, we don't set our DX. We don't really set our DX in our logic anywhere. We have it in the init. So we just need to modify it upon the instantiation in our play state. So the jockey, not the jockey to taxi, but the taxi to jockey, I guess. Taxi to jockey. That is when we want to ask if vultures, if self timesEggsHatched at index 1, which currently our testers are at 1. We'll have to recode this when we scale it, but if that index is equal to 1, meaning we've only hatched once so far, then we give our vulture instantiation a hunter's worth of DX manipulation. And then if we're facing the other direction, we got to do the same thing. We have to do that after our instantiation, otherwise the init would override it. So that's why we have the instantiation right above it here. Apply hunter velocity is 1.5, you know. But else, if our timesEggsHatched is equal to 2, we've hatched twice. In that index, we've hatched twice. If that's the case, and our taxi collides with that jockey, then we need to apply Shadow Lord velocity. Okay. And we need this down here as well, for whatever direction we're facing. And we would apply Shadow Lord velocity, which is what we decided to be current velocity times 2, double. So we'll say update that first vulture. Now when we get rid of our testers and do it for real, we need to change all this code, but looks like we're missing a then. Okay. Except this needs to be 2 for Shadow Lord velocity. Okay. Now I guess we could set I don't know. That's fine, I guess. Yeah, so we're doing things a little different. Well, 18. Danger of copy and pasting. So you copy the bugs. This should be hunter velocity, which is 1.5. Now, it's going to be hard to test the Shadow Lord velocity unless we... Shoot. Yeah, we still need to... Yeah, actually, this is kind of interesting. Maybe we can just... Shoot. I'm trying to think of how to test the Shadow Lord instantiation as well, which we would need to modify our timesEggsHatched field to be 2, and then yeah, we should be able to yeah, if we do this right here, if we say our table at 1 gets assigned 2. Therefore, when we get to this part, it'll apply the Shadow Lord velocity instead of the Hunter velocity, which should be twice as fast. Oh, it looks twice as fast. Okay. So we need to save this. I don't know what the last thing we did in this file is, but it was left unsaved. So what we've done today is have 2 different velocities for our new tiers, but we didn't apply them in the way we thought we would, which was asking on the tier basis and then assigning the DX, because our DX is not assigned in our update loop in our Vulture class. It's rather stated in the init, and we can just modify the init anytime we are spawning one. We spawn one and then we modify the init to the appropriate value, and then they're just set at that other value. So we're not doing it how we thought we would because of the way it's built currently with DX being updated. So we have 2 different values for the DX. So like I'm not calling it the AI just yet because I'm going to be tweaking the Y-word velocity also, making them flap a little crazier, the Shadow Lords at least, and then we need to make sure we're rendering the right sprite, which is based off. We'll just have to do something very similar like we did to our DX logic, where we say if we're spawning from an egg, if we're spawning as a result of a taxi, we have to check whether or not our eggs collected in that index is already 1, because if it is already 1, we need to up our tier, or that's actually where we update our tier. So I think, yeah, we just need to double check where we set. Yeah, if our tier is 3, so yeah, we'd have to add that. I'm gonna leave myself as a note for that, to leave that. Make sure you add Atlas change depending on tier for Vulture instantiations. As a result from taxi jockey collision. Jesus, okay. So yeah, we'll have to do that, and then we'll modify the DY, and then that's the different AIs for our bad guys. It's very simple. Like we do, we make them go faster, we change their sprite, and then we make them we make them flap faster. And then yeah. So we did a decent amount. I'm like tapping out already because my brain's like feeling like it did something, and then it's like, but don't go any further. But I'm happy with what we got today. It's been daunting thinking about this update. So we've got the velocity part of the update, which I thought was going to be the hardest part of that. So we'll just keep chugging along, and then hopefully move on to the wave creation after this. Get at everything saying added global times eggs hatched table for appropriate or for tier DX updates. Yeah, tier based DX updates. Okay, push it to our origin main, and then I'll see you guys tomorrow. We'll get some more good stuff done. It'll be the flap amount. The times we're flapping in our Bounder class versus our Shadowlord class, and then it'll be updating those atlases based on our tier as well.